Page 46, Singing in the Rain. I'm really amazed that they're still giving you that little diagram of the keyboard and where to put your hands. Because as far as I'm concerned, you cover that over. You don't need those, you shouldn't be using them. You figure out where to put the hands by looking at the notes and the fingers, and based on that, that tells you where to put the hands. Enough of my complaining, let's move on. Treble and bass clef, common timer, 4/4 time. It has a pickup beat, so we're coming in on beat 4. If you look at the last measure on page 47, it's got 3 counts in it, we're good. Again, I'm going to kind of take both hands at the same time, because there's a few places where the hands are playing together, but I think we can still handle it if we do both hands at the same time. So the left hand starts at this, so 4th finger's on the G here, that puts your hand here. And the right hand comes in with a little finger on the G here, and that here, so we're still in middle C position. And we have 8th notes, 1 and 2 in, and we got ties, so you got to deal with that. So it's 4, 1 and 2 and 3. The first 8th note is on beat 3. It's tied. You don't play it again, let's just temporarily take out that tie and play all the notes. In that first full measure, in the right hand, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's the way it is. Well, put the tie in, you just hang on to it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, like so. The left hand does play on beat 3, I got a B there. So it's 1 and 2 and 3. So you play on beat 3, and then there. So now we're a little bit different. Try it again from the beginning. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then you play it 1 and 2. And these whole notes and dotted half notes, you got to hold those down. Make sure you're doing that as you're playing in the right hand. So you got different things going on in the hands at the same time. Life is grand, isn't it? It's just wonderful. Let's do it again. 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now going on, this is the last beat in the last 2 measures of the first line, where the last beat is a G. It's the next phrase, if you want to say it. 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now you have a G and an A at the same time in the second line. And if this is confusing you, go back and just do it one hand at a time. Here. Here. Just play it one hand at a time for a bit if you need to, and then try to put the hands together because they are different. Let's start with the last measure of the first line. Here, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And make sure you lift up on the right hand because it's got a rest. So those quarter notes in the left hand are by themselves. So it's 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So this is different now than you had before. The rhythm changed. So this second line, second measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3. And that's really how the whole thing goes pretty much. The top of page 47, look out, because the hands overlap a little bit. So you have a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Right there. Both notes are down for 2 counts. 1, 2, 3. And then you're holding that down for the rest of the measures, 3 counts. So it's 1, 2, 3. Again, the overlapping, you hold the F down for the rest of the measure. So that part part is a little bit tricky with the hands overlapping like that. Let's look at the end at the bottom of page 47. Just start at the beginning of the line here. It's 1 and 2 and 3. See, for one beat, both of those notes are down. Because the half note is 2 beats long, you let up on beat 4. The left hand has a note on beat 3, so for one beat, both hands are down. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. And there, the last two measures, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. That's tied. Hang on to it, and then just play the E and the G in the right hand. Add it to it. So you got 3 notes down at the end. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. It's a little tricky rhythm-wise. This is a challenge though, but you work on it, take your time with it, go over those spots where you're struggling and the hesitations and all that. You should be able to play all of this without looking at the keyboard eventually. Then once you have that, we'll go put in the phrasing. Now with the phrasing, you lift up so it's like taking a breath. So there's a little silence between the phrases, but the beat has to be a steady beat. And they're not real clear on some of this phrasing, so let's just check. Sometimes you have to look at the words to see what's going on. Because you can use the sentences or the commas and periods and things in the words kind of tell you where one phrase ends and another begins sometimes. Sometimes you can hear it. The music, it just kind of talks to you. But at the beginning, it's all connected. And see, both hands came up, a little bit of silence. 2. That's the first measure of the second line there. Here, lift up. 1 and. Right there. Third line down, second measure. What's going on? Well, you have a G all by itself is not part of a phrase. The word you're singing, you have again, again, again. Again is not, you don't hold that out to the G because there's no indication there yet. You keep singing. So you stop on the A. So you're not singing on the G, you're quiet. The singer is quiet for one beat, you get to rest. Good for you. So it's like the phrase ends on the half note, and just separate them. It's like 2 breaths in a row, I guess. Same thing in the next line, first measure. Top of page 47, the first line, last measure, look out. Here, you're going to hold that down for the measure, but you have a phrase, you lift up. Here. And then the second line, last measure, they're not clear on their slur thing. It really should only be over the last quarter note, not both quarter notes. So it's here. It's like it was before. Do it all the same. And the same with the next line. The third line down, last measure. That phrase, in my opinion, it should only be over the last quarter note. Now on the third line, it is. And that's what we want. It should be over the last quarter note. Yeah. And then in the last line down there, you have these two go together. And then you lift up. So it's. I disagree at the end. The last 3 measures, they have different phrases. I think that should all be connected together. So it's the last 3 measures is here. And connect all that together. What they're doing is the singer isn't singing the next to the last measure. Only the piano's playing. So they're singing in the third to the last measure. They're singing in the, and then nothing. Rain for effect. But as far as playing it, I would connect it all together. Yeah. Then we can add the dynamics, the louds and the softs. See, I kind of build this stuff up one at a time. It starts out MF at the beginning. Mezzo forte means moderately or medium loud, sort of loud. Not really loud, just sort of loud. And so you'll have to decide what sort of loud is. It's up, changes from time. I don't know your situation, so you have to decide whatever you think. Not really loud, just on the loud side of the middle is all. 1 and 2. And you're staying in that area, a medium loud. As near as I can tell, I don't see any other dynamics until the very last measure. There's an F underneath the staff. I'm assuming they put the F under the staff because there isn't room in between the staffs because there's a word in there. It gets kind of crowded. The right hand is the only hand that's playing anything in that last measure because the left hand has already played a note and it's holding it down at that point. And loud, it just means you ended it loud is all that is. The tenuto line, just hold it out for 3 full counts there at the last measure and be done with it. It's loud. Just a little loud. But you're not going to stay exactly medium loud all the way through. You can get a little louder and softer, but get to know the piece. Because you have to decide on the speed. Well, you can find recordings of this, but, you know. It's overall a happy piece. So it's kind of you're dancing around, go watch Singing in the Rain, the movie, and you see the guy doing his thing in the rain until he sees the cop watching him thinking he's a ding-dong, then he stops. I'd like to play this with you very, very slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms. I'll do the phrasing, not going to do any, there isn't any dynamics to speak of. You ought to get to know it well enough that you can feel the dynamics. And you get a little louder and softer in places depending on how you feel it. Just stay in that range of the moderately loud, that's all. So I'll give us 3 counts because we come in on beat 4. 1, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1 and 2 and 4 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2. 2 and 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 2, 3, off.